Yeah, well, welcome, Dave. Glad you had a great holiday, Dave. And we'll talk about that as soon as you're back.
Yes, I did. I'll be right there.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you said. Okay, so Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon is inching closer. It's only got 11 more weeks to make 1,000 stays on the Billboard album charts. Wow. I know it had been there. It was the only song that was consecutively there for more than 600 weeks. Right. And it's weird how, like, Pink Floyd haven't been together in 20 years, but there's interest in their albums continues and comes back and back and back.
Here I am, saving the day.
Hey, there you are. Where
There
are
I
you?
am.
Okay.
I'm here.
So how's Costa Rica?
Fabulous. Fabulous. We went to two different areas. Went for probably about 60% of the trip to southwest coast of Costa Rica, or southeast coast of Costa Rica. That's where it's very steamy. There's jungles in the background. There's long, pristine beaches. Some of them of black volcanic sand. Some of white coral sand. Some of them of sort of mixed sands. It's quite nice. A lot of rivers breaching the sea. Strong Caribbean influence. There's a Jamaican minority there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next part went up to Monteverde. That's famous cloud forest area. Cloud forest areas have a very small amount of geography in the world. There's only about 1% of the world's surface is cloud forest. It's very interesting. The trees there don't have tree rings because they grow 24/7 all the time. So there's no separation from one season to another.
Okay.
Even though they have a rainy season in that, they don't. It just doesn't. It just continuously grows. So you'll never get a tree ring there.
Mm-hmm.
And full of course, all kinds of. We went for nature walks and things like that up there in the highlands. It was very, very moderate. The coast was steamy hot, very, very hot. But up in the mountains, up in Santa Elena, where we were, it was very moderate. The hottest part of the day was very doable, and it was cool at night, and it was drier. But then it was end of the rainy season was about to begin, so I don't know what's going to happen. A little later on, when we drove into to the town of Liberia to get our planes, we went through some very dried out, almost desert-like parts of the country. But I think it was looked that bad because we were right at when the rainy season was going to begin, so everything was dried out.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you see any historical stuff?
No, there isn't that much historical stuff in Costa Rica. There's some sort of I don't know, some old things there, but nothing to speak of. It's not like Guatemala or Belize or Mexico, where they have the Mayan and Aztec monuments. Doesn't have any of that, but we did kind of walk into a historical thing that I'd never heard of before. It is Juan Santa Maria Day when we were there. Juan Santa Maria was a soldier fighting against an American army. It was an American mercenary army that was trying to take over Nicaragua and Honduras, and Costa Rica. Okay. And one young hero of that war This is 1855, by the way. Well, one young hero was a 16-year-old drummer boy who did something extraordinarily brave before he went to try to do this task that everybody else was afraid to do. He made them swear that they would take care of his mother if he died, and he died, right? And so they took care of his mother, presumably. But he's a huge hero in Costa Rica, and they had a party all weekend long, a long weekend party. I'd never ended in the little town of Puerto Viejo. So that was something.
Okay.
It was really so that was historical.
So a war you'd never heard of, probably.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I'd never heard of it. And the Vanderbilts were involved in this. The Vanderbilts were against the mercenary. The mercenary went down there to take why did the mercenaries think that would be a good place to be? Well, because right at the Nicaragua-Costa Rica border, there's a Lake Nicaragua, and that's where they used to stop and unload the ships and take them as far as they could over water, and then did the land route for the rest of the way to get them to the coast of the Pacific. So it was sort of a half-ass Suez or a Panama Canal kind of thing.
Okay.
They just carried the cargo. It was relatively easy to get the cargo from the Caribbean across Nicaragua to the Pacific coast, and that's why it was so important. It was it's almost like owning the Panama Canal today, if you could do it.
Okay.
So that's why they and then the Vanderbilts got involved, and this mercenary, he tried to coax the southern United States into being in favor of him because he endorsed slavery and all this other stuff. It was very, very interesting.
So actually, Costa Rica has got one unique thing insofar as it touches the Atlantic. Not unique; it's not the only country that does it, but it touches the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Yes. Yeah. And it has wildly different landscapes. Quite a bit different. The southeast coast, of course, is like I said.
So the southeast coast is like northwest Panama, I guess, if you would like.
Yes.
All right. It touches northwest Panama, and the southwest coast would touch, I guess, southwest Panama.
Yeah, they're friends with Panama, but not friends with Nicaragua.
Yeah.
So, but it's a bit of excess. It's a lot more expensive than I thought it would be. Although it wasn't like there are things that you're gonna have to, when you get there, you start to learn, how to avoid.
Actually, that was one of the biggest problems I thought about with Belize. Belize was very, very expensive.
Yeah, and so is Costa Rica.
At a time when it's $3 a gallon in the US, it was 10 or 11 or $12 a gallon in Belize.
Well, I don't think the gas is that expensive in Costa Rica, but Costa Rica is what they used to call a third world plus country, and in fact may have even moved up to the second tier, second world country.
Yeah,
because it's fairly successful. It has been able to exploit the tourism factor. It has been able to reverse deforestation and preserve a lot of its natural life, and so it's got that for it. They've been able to exploit the tourism and also been able to branch out their economy into coffee. Coffee is a huge thing for them. Pineapples is a huge thing. Bananas is a big thing as well. Intel, microchips, they've got that going for them too. So they're developing a rather diverse economy, but right now I think they're struggling with currency and inflation and all the other things everyone else is suffering from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right now, they're
Okay.
doing massive infrastructure programs. Yep.
Yeah. Well, okay. Interesting. So what is the comment? Okay. Yeah, here we go. Hey, okay, so here you go, Dave. We've got now Facebook, we've got now YouTube followers.
YouTube followers.
Right. So Rob,
nice.
yeah, Robert DePal on YouTube is following us. It's the second or third morning I've seen Robert on there. So welcome, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
And of course, welcome, Mike. He says Costa Rica is a place to retire. Well, I leave that up.
Well,
to
there was lots of expats there.
Yeah, I leave that up to every individual, right, to think about. And what is good for one person is not good for another person. I found. Been looking for such a place. The potential.
There's lots of expats there, I tell you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd's classic album, is inching closer to a historic milestone, 1,000 weeks on the Billboard chart. When it first came out back in the late 70s, early 80s, this spent 600 weeks on the chart way back then. Now it's at 989 weeks on the chart. So how come what's the resurgence here, man?
I think Dark Side of the Moon is one of those albums that just fit. And when I listen to Dark Side of the Moon, I can't understand why I like it so much. I just I like it. It connects with me, and I just can't figure out. Like, I can understand why Kind of Blue connects with me, because I sort of that appeals to me. But Dark Side of the Moon and a lot of that stuff, the way they do it, it's a mystery to me why it is so appealing to me.
Yeah,
every time I hear it.
I've always been a fan of Dark Side. To me, that's my number one album of all time. Absolutely number one album of all time. There's no, there's a few albums. There's a few albums by Pink Floyd. There's a few albums by Queen that are up there. But the one thing about Floyd's albums is that they all flow. I don't buy singles from Pink Floyd. I buy albums from Pink Floyd.
Nobody buys singles from Pink Floyd. Nobody.
Yeah, but
I mean, they issued money as a
they
as a
issued
45 way back, but
they issued a number of singles. They issued The Wall as a single. They issued a number of things like Money, as you say, as a single. But it's basically they're an album band, right? And that's the point about it. So are Queen to a large extent, because A Night at the Opera, for example, is a classic rock album.
Yeah, and in this particular case, the album has come back on the Billboard 200. It has lasted there the longest of all. Now, it has had a special history because, unlike other albums, Dark Side of the Moon gets on the charts and it slowly starts making it way up to number one when it's originally released. It wasn't a flash up to the top. It took a little while to get into the groove while people were listening to it. Well, it moved up, and it moved up, and it only sat on the number one spot for a very, very short time. Yeah. But it was the very slow move up the 200, and then the extremely slow decline on the 200 over year after year after year.
Yeah.
To the point where it was like 986 weeks or whatever. Yeah, 989 weeks on the original time the top Billboard 200.
Yeah, the original time it was 600 weeks on the Billboard charts. And then it came back sometime later. It came back some, some few years after its original stay on the charts for another 100 weeks. And now we're at 989. Wow.
Yes. And some people think because of the eclipse that Dark Side of the Moon has become more, people start looking for it again and whatever. But this is an intergenerational album. It's like Kind of Blue. When I think of other albums like that, I think of Kind of Blue. It's intergenerational.
Yeah.
It just never gets old. And that's why I can't understand why it never gets old.
Actually, one interesting thing is I found if you get the track lined up properly and you only play Dark Side of the Moon, right? You play it. It's ironically there's a certain point, and there's information about this to be found out there. There's a certain point that if you play Dark Side of the Moon with the visuals set to The Wizard of Oz, you will find that actually it's a great commentary on The Wizard of Oz.
Huh. That's interesting. Well, I saw Pink Floyd perform Dark Side of the Moon as part of the repertoire at Iverwen Stadium in Hamilton.
Yeah.
I think just about everybody in my age group was at that concert. When Pink Floyd came, everybody here went. The trouble is the only drawback they had is they had a kind of a show thing, and they had a big screen behind them. But it was June when they played, and it was light almost to 9 o'clock. So this big screen behind them that had their sort of visuals. It really didn't work that well because it was too bright.
Because it was an outdoor stadium,
Yeah, it was outdoor stadium, but it was a great concert. I think everybody in there, I don't know anybody my age that wasn't there. It seems.
Yeah, well,
I didn't even know a guy got arrested for selling pot in there.
Well, there you go. Okay, well, I wish them well on this, getting closer to 1,000 weeks. Okay, so they also say Black Hole Sun and Bonnie Tyler, Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun and Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart also got back on the Billboard charts.
Well, yeah.
So that was an eclipse thing, as you say.
Well, Dark Side of the Moon, the closest challenger it has is Bob Marley's of the Wailers. Which one was that? Was Legend by Bob Marley and the Wailers. That compilation racked up 830 stays on the chart, but it would take 3 years for it to catch up to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah. Well, either way, even if Bob Marley were to overtake Floyd, it doesn't matter. All right. It
doesn't matter. It's just it just gives you the second most popular album in history is 3 years back of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, which tells you how heavy that, and it came out relatively around. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of difference in time between the two.
No.
As I recall.
Exactly. All right. Moving along, Representative Mike Levin, who's one of California's few vulnerable Democratic House members, called for a change in Israeli leadership last Thursday.
Well, the problem with Mike Levin is he's owned by AIPAC. He's AIPAC endorsed.
Yeah.
But he's a Democrat, and the Democrats are having this very, very difficult time right now, where they found that traditionally they were, knee-jerk supporters of Israel. Didn't matter what they did. Didn't matter how many kids they killed. Didn't matter how many land they whatever they just Israel. But that's changing now because the base of the Democrats are not buying that any longer. They don't like that. So he is an AIPAC endorsed guy. So he's found a happy medium here. He's got to go for an election. So he has to have all his troops on his side. Anybody that's come out to elect him, be there. But he's got to temper his position. He's AIPAC backed. But on the other hand, he has to get elected. So he's rather cutting a middle line. Not asking for a permanent ceasefire, but asking for a partial ceasefire. Not asking for Israel to stop the slaughter, but asking for a change of government in Israel. So he's trying to find that medium that will get him reelected.
Yeah, and he's a moderate Democrat, and he represents districts in a district in San Diego and Orange counties. So he's on the southern, he's one of the southern edge, which is, I believe, typically a Democrat type stronghold anyway, and possibly an area that wouldn't really where AIPAC maybe wouldn't necessarily get a strong, if they throw him out, he'd probably get back in anyway.
Well, he's got strong opposition from a Republican who's put him on the carpet saying that he isn't Israel focused enough. He isn't supporting, like, basically what he wants to do is say that he would be unabashedly supportive of Israel, and Levin is not. That was his opponent, Gunderson or something his name is.
Yeah.
So the problem here is, like, he basically is the Democrat Party. What are they going to do? Their own members are calling Biden Genocide Joe. Genocide Joe has to go. That kind of thing. Genocide Joe gives them $26 billion of bombs to drop on Gaza. The settlers on the West Bank are murdering ambulance drivers now. And of course doing it with impunity because they never get any real consequence for their action. And of course they're scooping more land from the Palestinians, and Genocide Joe looks the other way. Blinken looks the other way.
Actually, since we last spoke about the Middle East conflict, and everything has changed because Israel and Iran have basically swapped bombing raids with each other, throwing missiles and drones at each other. Most of the Iranian drones were shot down before doing any damage, but many of the Israeli bombs reached on a remote township.
Well, it's interesting to note that those drones that cost the Israelis, well, actually the Americans, millions and millions of dollars to shoot them down, because the drone is worth a lot less than the missile that comes up and takes it out. So there's thousands of dollars between each one. So they could if they throw 10,000 drones at Israel and they knock them all down, and it would cost the Israelis an enormous amount of money. Well, actually, the state's enormous amount of money, and the Iranians much less. They could send a whole lot of fakes out there just to make them cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about this is that, of course, the weapons that the Israelis have got are probably more accurate than the weapons the Iranians have got. But again, they're still both similar types of technologies.
Well, that Patriot system is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
So if you send a drone that's worth $10,000 over to knock out, with a bomb in it, and it's a Patriot missile that takes $80,000 to $100,000 to make to knock it out of the sky. Who's winning here? What you're doing is you're defeating your enemy by a death of 1,000 cuts. You're draining the resources.
Yeah.
You know, if Iran really wanted to do a huge attack on Israel, they would send thousands of drones, and then after that, right behind them, the real missiles, the guided missiles they have, because they would have exhausted all their Patriot missile battery by the time the bad guys really came in. So there are ways that the Iranians can strike them, and we know that Bibi Netanyahu has wanted to draw the U.S. into a major conflict with Iran for many years. Saudi Arabia and the UAE has also wanted that because of the Shia-Sunni kind of conflict they have together there. So we don't know. Go ahead.
Well, this is actually lobbing, this is lobbing bombs across two countries in between, because you've got Jordan. There's not a huge amount expanse of Jordan, maybe 100 miles, but then you've got Iraq, where that's maybe 500 miles between, so you're talking about 600 miles, to drop a bomb on your respective enemy.
You forget about the proxies of Iran inside of Syria. So that brings them a lot closer.
That's another matter entirely.
Well, that brings them a lot closer. Those missiles are now shot from a much closer range.
Yeah, but again, Israel has an air defense system, like much of the West has.
But it's extremely expensive, and it's limited on how many anti-missiles they have. And they were running out, because remember that who else is using this? Ukraine. How many can the United States manufacture? When the United States lends you money for munitions, you're buying them mostly from the United States. So the United States can only produce them that fast enough. Like I said before, the anti-missile, anti-drone Iron Dome that Israel has is extremely costly. Every one of those anti-drone or anti-missile ordnance that go out of it cost $80,000 to $100,000.
Yeah.
So if you're flying a drone at them, like I said before, that's worth $10,000, and you're hitting it out of the sky with a missile that each one costs $100,000, and they're not made that fast.
That's draining their resources. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And if as you say, it takes 6 months each to make one of these, for example, that's a real drain on the economy.
Yeah. And remember, they're going to be making them for Ukraine too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that's, but that's kind of, while you've been away, that's been one of the developing news stories, was that Iran-Israel conflict that's going on there.
Yeah, I was only paying mild attention to it. I know Bibi Netanyahu has always wanted the United States to get in a big hot war with Iran. Well, of course, he wants the United States to use its treasure and its blood to take out Iran for them. I don't know if it's such a good idea.
That's not likely to happen. That's not likely to happen. Now, British and American forces have, for the last 6 weeks or so, been taking on Iranian allies, some of the terror groups around particularly the Middle East, and bombing some of those groups.
What I mean, like the Houthis?
Yes. In
Yemen?
In Yemen. Yeah, Yemen. Couldn't remember the name of the country. Yeah, but absolutely. And so they've been taking on some of those rebels and killing some of those bases. But again, isn't that the road to nowhere?
Yeah.
Very often.
Yeah. So I don't know. And of course, the charge is like I don't particularly like the Iranian regime. I think Israel is very much like the United States was during segregation. It was a fine democracy for anyone that was white, but if you're black or any other color, you weren't going to get representation at all. And that's pretty much what's going on in Israel, Palestine right now. If you're an Israeli living in Israel, you have a fine democracy. You're doing pretty good. But they are oppressors of the Palestinians, very much like the whites were oppressors of blacks. So it's a mixed blessing there. Like if you're happen to be Israeli and a Jewish Israeli person in Israel, you're going to have a pretty good life. But if you happen to be a Palestinian, you're going to be pretty rough life. You're going to be a second-class citizen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Mike's basically saying a country that allows Donald Trump to run for president has no right to speak of other countries' leaders.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point there. Pretty good point. But you know what? I ask you, Mike. I mean, you might not like the guy overall, but you gotta admit he's really does flog really cool merch. And I can't decide whether I want a pair of his shoes or his Bible. I tell you, I can't decide. I might have to get both.
3 out of every $4 the Republicans are spending is on Trump's legal fees. That's another issue entirely. And we haven't really talked about that Trump campaign and the trouble that's in.
Well, that's because the Trump followers are chumps. I mean, they're nice people. They're ordinary, but they got totally chumped out. And I mean, here, Donald, here, I'm going to give you money so you get elected. Well, I'll use this to pay my legal fees. Thanks. Or
yeah. Interesting. Okay. Moving on. Coming back local. So speed cameras are being vandalized just after they're reinstalled.
What do you expect? What do you expect?
Well, you see, the thing is that, okay, it appears one angry resident really doesn't like speed cameras in Vineland. For the second time this month, the camera in Victoria Avenue was vandalized once again. Earlier this month, 3 cameras, including Vinelands and 2 in West Lincoln, were cut down. So that's interesting. The thing about these traffic cameras is that I think that if you've got them, you've got to be able to, you've got to, if you put them up, you've got to basically, there should be some rules. The traffic camera itself should be painted in yellow with a be highly visible, so you know that it's there. It was almost like this is the traffic camera. In advance of it, there should be a sign like 200 meters away that says traffic enforcement 200 meters, and another sign say 100 meters away that says traffic enforcement 100 meters. Then I think you got no option then if it's painted up, if it's there.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And what happens is I
think
I know somebody that got caught with one of those. I know somebody got caught with one of those, and all they were doing was following the flow of traffic. So the flow of traffic coming into town, and they were just doing the same as everybody else. And then presumably everybody on that line got a ticket. Yeah,
presumably, yes.
Yeah, because they were doing 63 in a 50.
There's a story I heard one time. First country in the world to put traffic cameras up was the UK. And back in the 80s when they did this, they put it up at the junction of the first one that they put up was for a trial run. They put it up at the junction where the A33 and the A4 merged together in West London in Chiswick. And they put up in the film box, they put up 3 months of film in it, right? In the camera box. Guess how quickly it was used up, Dave?
A few days. You already told me. Sorry.
No, 3 hours.
3 hours. Yeah.
3
I know
hours.
it's a very brief amount of time.
Yeah.
It was supposed to last a whole month or something like that.
Yeah. It's supposed to last months, and it was done in 3 hours, right? I didn't get a ticket. I didn't get a speeding ticket, but then I probably wasn't driving in that area at the time.
Yeah. You're getting a speeding ticket some other place.
No, I used to
Well,
live in that. I used to live in that area at about that time.
well, the takeaway here is that there are, well, unfortunately, people don't like these things. And you're right about that. They should have a lot of warnings ahead of time.
Yeah,
That'll help people self-govern themselves.
it should.
And,
It should show the
and you
speed
have to
limit.
have fair warning. Yeah.
Yeah, it should show the speed limit and give fair warning.
Now, if you've got a cop on detail, he's going to let the slower speeders go because it's not worth it. So when a cop is shooting down the line, and if you're going 58 in a 50, he's going to leave you alone, unless maybe it's close to a school zone or something like that.
He wants the guy who's going 71 in a 50.
That's right, and particularly in those transition zones, and where you go from 80 maybe down to 60 or something like that, or 60 down to 50 rather quickly, and you pull off your accelerator. It takes you a little while to slow down. So the cops are usually not after the guy that's going a little bit too fast. What they're after is the real speeder, and that's the real problem I see with this, is because they just give a ticket to anybody that's going a little too fast or whatever. But the real speed bomb or whatever, he or she figures that out pretty quick and chooses a different route, so they can still mat it whatever way they want. Okay, Mike, have a good day yourself. Glad you dropped by.
I'm wondering if the Parliament lady missing in Niagara was related to Laurie Parliament. Hope all works out well. Okay.
That occurred to me too. That actually occurred to me too, as a Laurie related to Laurie Parliament. This lady of about 54.
It is not a common name, that's for sure. Right.
No.
Alicia Mary makes this comment of, how about driving the speed limit? Then there would be no issues. And
good one, Alicia. Good one.
I'm not disagreeing with you there. The question really is one that I believe that I believe that those the crash, knocking these down clearly angered. Putting up these cameras has angered a lot of people. Okay, so Laurie Parliament, let's break this in. Laurie Parliament, distant relative, but I don't know her. I hope they find her. Yeah, we all do, Laurie.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah. And I'll go back to what Alicia Mary was saying. How about driving the speed limit? There would be no issue then. The trouble is, of course, that people don't drive a standard 50 kilometers an hour. They're going 45 in one moment, 56 in another moment, and that type of thing. So your speed moves up and down, and it's just literally naturally as the car goes maybe up a slope or down a slope. So you might be averaging 50 kilometers an hour, but you're doing 45 for a second. You're doing 55 for a second, that type of thing. So you're moving up and down on the speed limit. And I think the issue about these cameras, as I say, is that I don't have a problem with cameras. I just generally think that you need to identify the camera. The camera needs to be in a color that lights up when it's dark at night, so you can see the box is there, right? And you actually have to have the warning. You have to have the speed limit posted at the location where the camera is, highly visible, and that you have to have warnings that the camera's up ahead.
I think you do. I think there are warning signs.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that. The warning sign that I see on here is automated traffic enforcement area. No, I think make it more clear. 100 meters from the sign.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But they did, fair enough, they did put that up there, and probably most of the people, well, I know a person that got nailed. Like I said before, all they were doing is following the flow of traffic.
Yeah.
So they were just one in a line of people all going the same speed. So presumably they're all going too fast, and that's the habit. They had done that day after day after day. Nothing was different for this particular individual, except that he got a notice in the paper, in the mail, saying he was dinged X amount of dollars for a traffic ticket. So day after day after day, do the same thing, go down the same road at the same speed with the same people, basically. But this time there's one of those boxes, so you can see that people can get enraged, and we are already too many people are looking at us all over the place. It's Big Brother watching us, so we're going to get resentful of that, and there's going to be a lot of people resentful of that, and there's going to be a number of people who will take action, and that will be vandalizing those things. I don't know. Sooner or later they'll catch the vandal, probably.
Oh, more than likely. But actually,
in the meantime, it's costing the province of Ontario or the region, whatever, thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and basically, it's costing the region because these are region-owned traffic cameras.
Yeah, they just put them in the wrong place where they can be vandalized easy. Nice one. Like as if they didn't know that. What do you seriously? You didn't know that people are going to get mad and paint them or knock them over? You don't know that. Like, can't you put them up on a pole someplace where they can't get to them?
Yeah, in fact, actually, so coming from a country that had them a lot, the funny thing is in UK, they never got vandalized.
Well, because about only 1% of the people in the UK have cars because they're a second world country.
No, that's not true.
If you're a first world country like Canada,
it's just weird that they don't, they don't get, they don't get vandalized to the same extent. But they are usually permanent locations, and getting to them is very difficult. But you can still probably swing a hammer at one, a lump hammer at one, and get and hit it.
Well, these are being torn right out, and a lot of them are being painted. Yeah. So it's going to be a while before, once people are used to it being there and people aren't getting tickets anymore, then everybody will ignore it.
Yeah.
But it'll ding the odd person that comes in from out of town or something.
Yeah, you see that
once everybody knows it's there, it's just like knowing, for 2 weeks, the cop sets up the radar, right? And after the first day, he's going to be there for a while, so you behave yourself. But this is just a permanent radar guy.
Yeah, and if you had them as permanent stations, so you knew that they were there at this particular point, and as Alicia says, you would behave, as Alicia Mary said, you behave yourself around the point where the camera is.
Yes. So basically, Alicia Mary's made the point, but Alicia Mary makes the point like if you smoke and you want to quit, well then just stop smoking. Yeah, easier said than done. If you're carrying a few extra pounds, well, reduce the amount you eat. Oh well, yeah, that's logical, but it ain't gonna happen. So human nature is the contributing factor here. All things being logical, and Alicia's right, just drive the speed limit, but we aren't that easily swayed to do those things. What's going to slow down? If anything slows down the speeds, it will be the price of gas. I heard when I was gone, there was a whopping big increase. So we had the carbon tax, and then right after a huge increase as well.
Yeah, it went up. It was weird because it went up and then carbon tax.
first the carbon tax, and then the oil refineries decided they'd want more of the action.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird. It really was weird. Right. Okay. Is it interesting? I can't open this other story.
Which one is that?
Oh, I know why I can't open it. Okay. Okay, I know why I can't open it. Keep talking about
Which story is it? I like to know which one it is.
well, you sent me this story, and it was in the Standard. Because of my subscription pack with that, it won't let me see standard stories. I only get to see
the ones in the review, right?
Ones in the review.
Well, but the thing is, it was in the review, and the trick of sharing those is to share the Niagara Falls review version of it.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you'll be able to open it. Otherwise, you won't be able to. And I'm finding the same problem now because the story is a couple days old. So, but the rumors were that there's people smuggling, or let's see if I can get it up here. They're using farms actually to smuggle people, or oh darn it, I gotta get this back here. Yeah, rumors of human trafficking farms in Niagara prompt police to ask for information. So there's rumors that human trafficking is happening, and that this seems to be a problem in Niagara Falls. Now, for a time, it was the trafficking happened in the various hotel rooms in and around here, and of course, it was quite often sexploitation, basically. And now they seem to be out in the farms in the countryside. So it's kind of baffling police. It's something that police can never really seem to get a hold of. It's something that just happens, and they really can't get a firm grab on it. And right now, they're asking the public for help, if they can help someone or another.
In March, what it's basically saying is, in March, Niagara Regional Police Human Trafficking Unit investigated a property in rural St. Catharines, which resulted in 8 people being charged with drug offences and other unrelated offences. Since then, the police finished their investigation. No further charges were expected. And the question here is that this is probably that the police are not actually talking about trafficking here.
Yeah, what are they talking about?
Well, they seem to be talking about other offenses rather than trafficking as to what these people were charged with. Drug offenses and other, 8 people being charged with drug offenses and other things. But the human trafficking unit found them, right? Since then, they're not charged. It doesn't know they're charging them with trafficking. Now, Crystal Snyder, who leads the Collaborative Community Solutions, an anti-human trafficking training and consulting firm, says that since that investigation went public, women have been coming to her organization, bringing to light their experiences at farms across Niagara. But what are these farms doing with these women?
I don't know. I think it was pretty convenient for where it was right on the border, of course, right? So, which is kind of like a convenient spot, I suppose, to get people back and forth or whatever they have to do. There's a lot of people that come into Niagara Falls. So if you, I don't know, if you're looking for a sexploitation kind of thing, they can, because a lot of this apparently has to do with that. And I don't know. Let's see if I can get this article up. But I think that's part of what's happening. Maybe they use them for slave labor, sweatshops, whatever. But they own them, and basically they have them in fear because, of course, they're just telling them we're going to dump you if you don't if you don't comply or do what we say. And of course, it's got a picture of a young woman with her head between her knees and sort of look like she's weeping on a bed. And
that to be quite honest,
I just can't open it up though. Like,
yeah, to be quite honest, that picture looks staged.
well, of course it is staged. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
staged. It's for effect anyway. Okay, so
Yeah.
I did open it up. I got it. Rumors of
Yeah.
the existence of a group of rural properties being used for human trafficking have police and support organizations concerned. By getting people to come forward to police has been difficult, as you might imagine.
Yep.
In March, the regional police human trafficking unit launched an investigation at a rural property in St. Catharines, which resulted in 8 people being charged with drug offenses and unrelated charges. Since then, the police have finished their investigation, no further charges. So anyway, they went that far, but they're still trying to figure out the aspect. Of course, these are criminals, and of course, they're going to dabble in anything that's going to make them money.
Yeah.
And right now, one of the hard things to do is getting any cooperation on smuggling and bondage of these individuals that are beholden to these organized crimes, right? So, but it's very hard to move on that. Even if you have a young girl and you sort of rescue her, but she's going to be very afraid that she might be sent back to her country of origin.
Yeah. The one of the ladies they're talking to here, her name is Snyder, a survivor of human sex trafficking. So the geography and features of Niagara contribute to the problem. So there are canals, lakes, large stretches of rural farmland, 400 series highways, the Canadian-US border, and it's different geographically than many other communities. Right. Jane Lavaca of Westview Center for Women basically said that when working to keep safe the women in her St. Catherine's organization serves, getting them to speak to police is impossible. And that's one of the biggest problems about trafficking, isn't it? The victims don't want to talk.
Well, it seems that way. Human sex trafficking is what Snyder's talking about here. And I wish they would be a little bit more clear at the very beginning, because that seems to be the basis of most of human trafficking is sexploitation. And I don't know where these girls are coming from, but I assume they could come from anywhere. But the traffickers have a hold on them, a grasp on them, because if you don't do what we told you, we're going to let you out and you're going to be sent back to where you came from, whether it's the Ukraine or Burkina Faso,
Well, and here's the thing. According to Statistics Canada, the reported number of human trafficking incidents across the whole of Canada has moved from about 100 10 years ago to 528 in 2022. So that's
the Coyotes are making all kinds of money. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Like, so if you ever notice, there's always in line with drugs too. So when they bust one of these operations, when they think they found a human trafficker, there's always drugs involved or guns involved. And so drug and human trafficking makes a whole lot of money. And when you have a victim that is reluctant to cooperate because the victim doesn't know what's worse for them, either going to the police or trying to find a rescue only to be thrown on a plane and sent out of the country, or sticking it out with the bad guys and hoping to escape one day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's part of the challenge, especially if you're on a foreign land.
Yeah. Well, I got to say goodbye, Peter, because I got to do the bingo thing.
And absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I come home last night at about quarter to 1 because I was lucky. I got some of my driving duties were transferred to a different person. So I got home a little earlier than I thought. It was about quarter to 1, I think it was. But then I couldn't go to sleep because I was wound up. It was a long day. Long
I
day.
hate getting home late because I just can't wait. I can't go to sleep properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because you're all wound up. All right, well, have a great day, and we'll get back to this tomorrow.
Okay, Peter. And without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace. Pray for peace.